What is up, everybody, and welcome to Best Ball Live, brought to you by DraftKings. I'm your host, Connor Allen from 4-4. Joining me today is the Rich Hribar from Sharp Football. What's up, man? How has life been since I've seen you last? I know we caught up a little bit before the show, but it's always good to catch up in real life and do a draft together now.
Absolutely. This will be my first DraftKings draft, so I'm looking forward to the change of pace and do a different setting. It's not available in Ohio. It's one of those weird things where, I can't do pick'em games, and I can't do DraftKings best ball, but I can do best ball on some other sites. But it's the gambling rules, the jurisdiction is just kind of, you don't know what you're going to get.
Oh man, the whole legality of it all just never really makes much sense to me, to be honest. And we're still navigating that. Now you have the whole sweepstakes markets in this as well, which I don't even know if you're in that street at all. It's all these other fake sports books joining the space. But anyways, I can also talk about that for a while. So today, Rich and I are going to be doing a live DraftKings best ball team, $15 million total prizes, including $2 million to first place. I'm going to hop in a draft here and then can get that queued up and talk about anything else. All right. Yeah, $20 entry. I mean, one of my favorite things about this is it's, I don't know, the field's questionable at times in terms of sharpness. There's underdog is stacked. You have the sharpest of the sharps drafting right now. Mm-hmm. Anything that you see that's crazy is, I don't know, usually for a good reason. Occasionally there's something that's off, off kilter. There's a one guy I think auto drafting based off his rankings a couple of weeks ago that maxed out the 150 initially. But yeah, I mean, I think, the waters are warm here in DraftKings. So I'm been pumping out a little bit more of those and obviously doing the weekly live stream here.
So someone in chat said they're in Ohio and can do this. Maybe I'll have to check. I was not able to do them last year for sure. So I'll have to check this year. Maybe I need to get back in and push the button and see if I can get in there. Yeah. Because like you said, yeah. It's nice to break up too and just not have all your eggs in one basket, right? Not into one tournament or on one site. I draft on FFPC too, which is full PPR, but it's the start 2 wide receivers versus the start 3. I know you do a lot of FFPC stuff too as the summer moves on. But I like to mix it up and do different things at different sites because it keeps it fresh. It doesn't get monotonous. And then the ebb and flow of drafts are different. They're based on the different structures. And it's always fun to play fantasy football in different ways and not just one way.
Yeah, no, totally. I definitely agree there too. Also, I think doing best ball now kind of keeps you fresh and aware of what's going on. So usually I like to do honestly best ball in preparation for my high stakes drafts later in the fall, because then it's not always the same in terms of ADP of oh, this tight end is going in this round versus this round, but positionally it's usually pretty similar of oh, this tight end goes before this tight end, or this wide receiver goes in this range on this website, but on my home league draft, I can get him 30 spots later. It's just obviously pretty good value there. We got someone in the chat here. Jeremy said he did 139 last year, but 150 closed before he could max. I'm going to challenge you, Jeremy. I think you can do it this year. 150 coming up. Let's see.
Yeah, I think you do it too, Jeremy. We're enablers here. Keep gambling.
Yeah, I mean, hop in this one. It's still spot. Still spots open. We're at 10 out of 12, so it should fill pretty quick here. And then for those, still kind of learning about the different sites here, DraftKings full PPR, so that's obviously a key difference here. You also start 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, and a flex, which is big, which means that all you, zero RB bros that love just jamming wide receivers, this is the platform for you. You can jam wide receivers forever. Usually in drafts, I end up with 8 or 9 in most drafts, and it's 20 rounds. So I think there's, a couple of different points here that make it different and beatable, because the ADP isn't that much different than other sites, but I think there are obvious scoring changes that should make, should shift your opinion one way or another. And as a reminder, it's obviously best ball. So no management, no trades, no ad drops. We just draft it, and then Rich and I will reconvene when we win, $2 million together and can celebrate on the last day there. And we'll,
I mean, you don't even have to tell me if we won. You can just be like, hey, that was in my entry, so.
We have the first overall pick. Look at this.
For real?
Let's go.
All right.
Well, give me the spiel. Who's your? I mean, is it Barkley, Chase, Jefferson? I think there are a lot of guys up top here that could make sense.
Yeah, I think in full PPR, start 3 wide receivers, it's hard not to be invested into Jamar Chase. I mean, he's finished as a wide receiver 1 in points per game all 4 years of his career. And with the full PPR, you get the bonus of his role has been constantly evolving to where the Bengals have gotten him more free squares. I mean, his slot rate, his slot usage has gone up every year of his career. And obviously with Tyler Boyd leaving last year, it rose again last year. And you look at the Bengals, you know, structurally, like the defense has a lot of question marks. We were projecting his team to throw a lot. I would not expect him to have the same amount of touchdown total he had last year and that to come down because Burrow ran so hot. But it's a team that's going to have to throw and score points. I think it's just really hard given the format to get away from Chase.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think that you could make a very reasonable argument for Barkley here in most other leagues. And I mean, I'm probably mixed exposure in most other leagues of like the first, second overall pick in terms of like Barkley versus Chase. Also like Jefferson and Robinson. For me, there's a little bit of a teardrop there, but after those four guys, but honestly, I think Chase here is probably gonna be who we're gonna go with off the top.
Yeah, I still believe. I know it's not a popular take. I've had it this offseason though, and gotten some pushback because I know he's burned people. But I still believe Christian McCaffrey belongs in the conversation. You know, especially in a full PPR setting. You know, I know that people will say there's a risk reward factor, but I mean, even the 2 games he played in full health last year, you know, with Brock Purdy, 91% of backfield touches, 86%, 20% target share. Everyone that I've talked to from like a doctor stance has said like the Achilles thing is not something that they expect to be a hindrance for him. Now he still has a litany of other stuff you have to say from a background check that puts him at risk compared to a guy like Bijan Robinson. But I would not be shocked still if he ends up running hot and then you see like Christian McCaffrey at the end of when the dust settles be like, oh wow, we let this dude go at like the 1-2 turn this year.
I totally agree. I think he's actually one of the people who can like, it's very rare that like a second round pick, you know, like fringe first, second round pick can like win you your league. But I actually genuinely think that like he has RB1 upside +3 fantasy points per game over anyone in his range of outcomes. Now, I mean, the floor is low. Like he could be dust, he could get injured again. Like all those things are possible, but it's pretty rare to get a guy like, you know, again, like not in the top 3 picks to like, okay, this guy can legit score 24 plus PPR points per game at the back half of the first round. And he's already done it. And like, I expect the Niners to be better. Their strength of schedule is super easy, as I'm sure you guys know. You guys do a ton of schedule work over at Sharp Football. The Niners are healthy again. Like I'm expecting a big bounce back just in general year from them. I don't know. Like, are you on board with that, or are you kind of mostly just on CMC?
Yeah, I think the entire team has been undervalued because of, you know, it's the fantasy community tends to do this every year. Is what just happened last year tends to be fresh in our mind and gets overvalued into drafts. We look at the 49ers. I mean, they were 4th last year with everything that went wrong and expected touchdowns. If you look at Vegas lines right now, they're projected to be the 7th highest scoring team in the NFL. Like everything signals like, hey, this offense is still going to score points. Their Super Bowl window may be kind of closed right now based on what's happened with the defense, but offense still looks really good. I would bet that they're going to score points. I mean, obviously McCaffrey has like some health stuff factored into why his ADP has dipped a little bit, but in general this year, the 1-2 turn is significantly better than it was a year ago.
Oh,
I
so
mean,
good.
you go back to last year, we were forcing guys like Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave like in that range. And now you're able to like get Ashton Janty, Christian McCaffrey, like Drake. Like it's just so much stronger at the 1-2 turn than it was a year ago.
Yeah, and there's like all these. I mean, there's still on the board. Yeah, Genty, Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr., Derrick Henry, like Christian McCaffrey's usually there. It looks like he went the 10, 108, 19 in this draft, which I think when it comes time to fall, he's probably going to end up in this range, like in the middle,
Yeah.
like kind of like. I mean, I wouldn't.
If
I
he's
wouldn't be mad
healthy
at
all
anyone taking
summer,
over.
I think that's where I think he becomes like a mid first if this continues to trend positively because he's already been at OTAs and doing stuff and he's on track to play now. Again, like he's a running back. Running backs get hurt, like it happens. You know, he's missed double-digit games in 3 years too as well. You basically are getting, like you said, that the risk versus reward. Like he could be the RB1 overall, or you miss a handful of time. But I'll say everyone, like if you're not on CMC, draft the other 49ers and draft Garendo.
Yeah.
Like, just draft
Right.
Garendo later.
It's the arbitrage because you need exposure to the Niners. Like it's like one of those teams that you want exposure to. They're gonna, again, like you said, they're going to score a ton of points. And so not having any exposure in some of your drafts is a disaster. Whoa, whoa, whoa! All right, we got JSN 203. That is hot. That is real hot. I think his ADP is, I mean, like 3rd round. You know, mid to late 3rd round is normally where he's going. Maybe a misclick, but that's spicy. I don't know. Are you in on JSN this year? Probably not at this point, but I mean,
I am, but that gamer might also be looking at the board and kind of realizing like I'm higher on JSN in the field. He's not going to come back to me. So like I don't mind like those types of plays because if your belief is that, hey, JSN now is going to continue to take a step forward in year 3 with Clint Kubiak, who I believe is going to give them, him high efficiency targets. I think that it's a little overblown, like JSN's like slot versus outside stuff to this point in his career. I think people are leaning into that too much. I think that he's going to get like stuff off of play action and some easy button targets where he can be efficient. So if that gamer is saying like, hey, I'm really high on JSN versus what's remaining on the board, I personally would definitely smash Drake London there. But he's not going to make it back there. So I get that, throwing that dart while you believe in the player.
So we are 1 pick away here. We have Jonathan Taylor still on the board, Bucky Irving still on the board, Josh Jacobs, and we have 2 picks in a row. So I like a lot of these guys. I think, throw Chase Brown's hat in the ring here. I don't mind Garrett Wilson. Any takes here at the 2-3 turn?
Yeah, I would lean to one of these being Trey McBride, given the format, with it being full PPR versus, like I said, like underdog, where touchdowns are a little bit more factored in, because the one thing Trey McBride hasn't done is score touchdowns. Just 6 receiving touchdowns through 3 years. And if you go back to his last year at Colorado State, the dude had 90 catches and 1 touchdown. Like, this is following him wherever he goes. But this guy is bankable for like 130 targets. He's been a tight end 1 scorer in 20 of his past 26 games. And tight end after George Kittle drops off a cliff this year. So I don't mind having an elite tight end paired with Chase.
Yeah, no, we have Chase here, McBride, then we got 1 more pick here. I'm a huge Bucky Irving guy. I like Josh Jacobs here too, though. So I think either one is fine for me.
I'm good with either guy as well. If you want to tack on one of these running backs here.
Yeah, cool. I'm a big Bucky Irving guy. I think his efficiency down the stretch is awesome. Rashad White still exists to some extent, obviously, but all the quotes from Coach Speak Index has done a great job kind of compiling this. Has basically been like, we're gonna start this year where we left off last year, and that was with Bucky Irving like hogging touches. He was still involved in the receiving game a little bit. Yes, Rashad White's probably gonna play on some long down and distance. Yes, like I think he's still gonna be a pass catching guy at times. So like there's maybe a little bit of upside nuked, I would say there. But this Bucs offense, they added more weapons. Like Chris Godwin's gonna be healthy. You added Ibuka. Like I think that this team here, and we saw Bucky Irving just play outstanding last year, score a ton of fantasy points as well. Like to me, I think he should be like a mid second round pick. And so getting him in the late second round of the 2-3 turn, we got him at 301 here. I think that's a great value. Now, again, I think you can make the same. There's this nice tier here of running backs, like with Bucky Irving, Josh Jacobs, and Chase Brown, that are all on good offenses, like that are going to get a ton of touches, that I have like very little concern about anyone else getting work, that I think are all like, I've been getting mixed exposure to those guys because I think they're all pretty good options there.
Yeah, I think the only thing keeping like Brown and Irving as like more like 2-3 turn guys is just the sample size, right? We know how fantasy gamers, they love comfort. Like they love it's the same thing we talk about CMC, right? Like to gamers, he is an uncomfortable click. And we have basically Bucky Irving having like a 5-week sample of being the lead back, and Chase Brown having like a half season sample. Like, so people are like, oh, are we gonna get Lucied with the football if we push this player up too high? But especially like Chase Brown, especially when I look at that depth chart, like it seems pretty safe. And like you said, Rashad White feels like he has 1 foot out the door with the franchise right now. Because he's in his contract year. He's probably not going to get extended. He will play some long down and distance stuff, like you said. I mean, he still even had 1,200 yards last year, even while Bucky Irving was doing his thing.
That's crazy. I mean, that's wild to think about it, honestly. That because like the end of the season, there was some. I mean, we were betting Rashad White unders like every week because he was like, it was like literally like over under 5 carries. I'm like, he's not getting 5 carries. Like he's just going to get like whatever 3-4 carries, and so. Yeah, it was the Bucky Irving show. So I'm excited for him this year. Again, I think a solid end of the second round pick. I am curious your opinion, though. A guy that I can't really seem to figure out, Kyren Williams. What do we, this whole tier right here. I hate being stuck with a pick in this range because I don't like any of these guys. I would love for you to talk me into one, though.
I mean, it's tough to say like I'll talk you into him because I mean Kyron's just been so volume and touchdown driven, but we seen the chatter though that they're talking about extending him, right? Like if he's going to get a contract extension, it's hard to say. He had fumbleitis last year, and Blake Corum was a 3rd round pick, and Corum still couldn't get on the field.
Yeah,
like I mean he lost. I mean he fumbled 6 times, lost 4. And he still had 82% of the backfield touches in his games played. He was 3rd in the NFL with just under 20 runs per game, 19.8 rushes per game. This guy has high touchdown equity on a team that we know is going to score touchdowns, right? So I think in a best ball format, Kyron actually is a little bit more of an easier click than versus like maybe a managed league, because he doesn't really catch passes and he's been a little bit more touchdown dependent, especially the back half of last year, because the Matthew Stafford was actually last in the NFL in throw rate to running backs last year. Yeah. So, I mean, you're not seeing, it's funny that coming out of college, that was like his bread and butter. Like he was a better receiver than a runner, and we haven't really seen that unlocked in the NFL. But yeah, I mean, touchdown equity still there. I still think that, he's going to get a high workload until he doesn't, right? I'm one of those, I'm going to keep believing the Rams are going to operate business as usual until they have a reason not to.
Yeah, I tend to agree. It just to me, it's a scary click.
He's just not sexy.
Yeah. Like I almost prefer to reach on one of these receivers. Like I kind of think Ted McMillan's kind of fun, has a lot of upside, got some good draft capital, fits really well with what Bryce Young does well. DK Metcalf, same thing. I was buying him in the mid 5th round before Rodgers signed, again, speculating that Rodgers would sign. I think he could be really interesting here as well. Mid 4th though. I mean, he's creeping up. This is probably about where he should be going, to be honest. But I mean, in a best ball format, the upside is obviously pretty significant on a week-to-week basis. James Cook reported for OTAs or reported for mandatory camp today. I mean, I think he was always going to report, right? Like that was like, he had no leverage.
He's a scary pick because when you buying a player that had the significant touchdown spike. I mean, he had 18 touchdowns. He was number 1 of all NFL players in touchdowns scored over expectation last year, and that coincides with a decrease in usage last year. His usage went down from 2023 to 2024, and his route participation went down from the year. So it's like anytime you have a guy that was like, oh, his usage went down, but his touchdowns went up, that's like a tough player to invest in the next year. Totally. It seems like it's very fragile.
We are on the clock, 10 seconds. We could do a Jalen Hurts, Devonta Smith stack.
Yeah, I'm cool with that. Yeah, let's do Devonta.
Yeah.
Because I mean, the Eagles are a team that, I definitely want to invest in the passing game. I mean, when you look at what happened to them last year, Jalen Hurts threw 360 passes last year. Like that's just not good. That's just something that's not going to happen again. I mean, this is a team that they go from a huge spike in terms of schedule adjusted, what they had from last year to this year, in terms of our metrics. And you look at last year, they still were kind of pass heavy-ish for them in the first half of games. I mean, Jalen Hurts averaged 17.8 drop packs per game in the first half. That was 14th in the league. So like mid-range team, right? And in the second half of games, he only averaged 11 drop backs per game, which was 36. He had 108 fewer drop backs in the second half of games last year compared to 2023 because they were just beating teams. Now look at their strength of schedule this year. Like I said, it completely flips. They go from the 4th easiest schedule last year to the 4th hardest schedule this year per our metrics. That's the most significant swing from any team. They play 10 games against 2024 playoff teams. So they're just going to get pushed a lot more this year. I mean, they trailed for only 62 fourth quarter snaps last year, the whole season. Like that's just going to flip. We're going to get a little more passing value. And if you're saying we can get Jalen Hurts back into the 500 plus attempt range, you're just going to take that and throw that at the wall with the tush push surviving.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah. And you're in such a good spot here. Like he's going as what? QB5, I think essentially at this point, like, yeah, if he's pushed at all, like he's elite, easily an elite quarterback here. And that's just something we didn't see very often.
And the same thing for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Like that all correlates in with them and then Dallas Goedert later. I mean, AJ Brown last year was the wide receiver 5 in first half targets per game, and then the wide receiver 60 in second half targets per game, because he had 32 total targets in the second half of games last year. Just because they didn't have to throw. Like they just didn't have to throw. So I mean, it's those guys are all about AJ Brown, especially because you look at his spike week potential in a best ball, because the Eagles are still going to have games where they route teams and they run. So the AJ Brown is a little bit lower floor in that wide receiver 1 range, but we know the spike week potential for him. This is a guy that had almost 1,500 total yards his first 2 years with the Eagles. Like
he's awesome. He's awesome. Yeah. And the number 1 option, I think Devonta Smith, obviously, as you said, is going to be volatile, but again, in best ball, I think capturing some of that volatility is.
I mean, look at where he went in this, almost to us. He almost came back. Imagine being able to start with like Jamar Chase and AJ Brown. Like that game where it started with Justin Jefferson and AJ Brown. Like it's incredible. It's an incredible start.
Yeah, because he was what, like a 107, 108 pick last year somewhere in there?
And we talked about the turn was it was bad. Like he was kind of the cutoff last year. He was like the firewall guy last year in the first round.
That's crazy to think about. And now we're in this point. So first 5 rounds, we went with Chase, McBride, Bucky Irving, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts. So extremely balanced start from us, I would say.
Mhm.
Now we're in the 5th, 6th round here. Like we're what, 7 picks away at this point. We're kind of in another weird zone there. I liked a lot of these guys that went in the front half of this round with like Waddle, Jennings, Ridley, Pickens. I think are all like really good picks. Now we're kind of in a weird zone here where we're looking at maybe Debo, Judy, Rome, Godwin. I have a tough time in this zone as well. Any thoughts here?
Yeah, I still think in this type of format, like Judy saw as the projectable value. You don't love the quarterback situation, but again, best ball insulates you here, right? Like in your
Yep.
weekly managed league, you're going to have to ride with Judy through thick and thin. But in a best ball league, we're just going to soak up the weeks where he hits, and then we'll have insulation where he doesn't. So I do think just from a volume perspective, I'm a volume based player. When I see a player is going to easily project for a 25% plus target share, and like that's just a pretty safe. I feel comfortable making that click. So I know that there's like a lot of easy ways to pull down on Jerry Judy and say this could go wrong, but this format I think insulates a lot of those.
Well, we got sniped,
Yeah,
so that's
that's
great.
fine.
I mean, now we're looking at, I mean, Jacoby Myers. We could do Caleb Johnson, Khalil Shakir, like Quinshon Judkins. Like, I don't know. It's a lot of these guys that if it was I'm on the clock, I'm probably going Caleb Johnson if we need it. But I'm
I
fine
mean,
with any of these
Ricky
guys.
Pearsall, if he's there, I think Aaron Jones, David Montgomery are safer picks here if you want to make that. If you want to gamble
Let's do Pierce. Oh
on
fuck. Oh
Swift,
no. Oh no.
did you clock out?
We let's see what happened here. I
Did
think
you
we
clock
got
out?
autoed. We got
Oh
autoed
my goodness.
Montgomery and then clicked Pollard as it moved down. So this team is completely out the window. I mean, should we just stop here? This is a disaster. Look at this. We got people come chiming in here. Oh my God, what just happened? All right, so
No,
we
we can make it.
now
We can make this work. We can make it and make it happen. So we're just got to smash wide receiver.
I don't mind Tony Pollard. David Montgomery is fine. I mean, he's not a guy. I think there's a way more uncertainty now that the little bit change in offensive coordinator here. I mean, that
But you
was an
still have the
all-time wonder.
contingency factor if something were to happen to Jahmyr Gibbs. Like you still have that leaning on it. Yeah, obviously Ragnow retiring is a blow for the offensive line too. Detroit also is one of those teams. I think we could. There's a lot of avenues for regression. I mean, obviously Jared Goff had a career year last year. You lose Ben Johnson. Ragnow retires. The schedule gets harder for them. I could see a little bit of pullback in general for them as a
Yeah,
team.
no, for sure. I mean, there's just a lot more uncertainty, I think, there without Ben Johnson and kind of what that looks like. Caleb Johnson's a guy that I'm kind of interested in general this year. Like, I think from a projectable standpoint, like Jalen Warren obviously plays a role, and it's tough to project Caleb Johnson outright, like from a median projection standpoint, like, oh, he's going to be an awesome pick. But I think the upside is there. Like, they haven't really shown that they want to give Jalen Warren like a ton of work. And even when he's just not really been uber efficient all the time. So I think that Caleb could be like kind of like a medium floor, not a guy that you love to start, but like the upside if they end up using him more or Jalen Warren gets injured, is pretty high on an Aaron Rodgers led team, could score plenty of touchdowns as well. So he's kind of a guy that I've been interested in more and more at, I don't know, what are we at? 8, 9 turn, 7, 8 turn at this point. So, and then Pearsall was the guy I was trying to click there before. Are you worried about his injury at all? I know he's a little bit banged up already, or is it just like way too early to even worry about that?
I mean, it's tough to say like right now on these June OTAs how much is precautionary, how severe it is. It's one of those things we have to see when we get into training camp. But I will say this: one of the old tried and true things to do, and this ties back to our lead into Christian McCaffrey earlier, is players that are hurt in training camp in the preseason. Like you should almost always remove those dudes from your board. Definitely players like the injury. How many of us have died on the hill of injury optimism, right? Or catching this value on a player.
Right.
This guy opened in the 4th round. Now he's going to 6th round because he's hurt. I'm going to scoop in and grab him like that. Those players very rarely work out, or they end up with another injury in season. So those are things you want to monitor when we get later in summer. These guys that are hurt, and you kind of remove those guys from your board.
Yeah, I think that there was like, I think Pearsall was an example, but again, it's too early. Diggs, like the whole Diggs situation was wild, had a little bit of tussy on him, is handing out some pink cocaine and now just like showed up and looks good and is well ahead of his injury. And can he do the exact same thing that he did with Josh Allen on the Bills? Like in my opinion, that's a question. He's obviously nowhere near his prime anymore, but like, can he have that level of impact? I tend to lean towards no, but I think at the 7, 8 turn, like, the price is probably right to find out.
Yeah, we're gonna have to start hammering wide receivers though
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because
Let's see
of
where we're at.
what happened. You have to make sure too we're not on auto coming back.
Yeah.
I don't
Let's
know
see.
if it kicks you to auto automatically on DK or not, but
No, we're not on auto. We're good. All right.
we can still make this out. There's lots of guys I think to salvage this and throw
We'll
enough
be
at the
fine.
wall.
We're gonna need to, have a different build. Well, 9 wideouts. I believe in us.
Yeah, we're gonna have to just hammer wide receivers. In this type of format, I do really like Christian Kirk a lot. He's not a guy in managed leagues I'm going to be particularly interested in, but one of the things that best ball does is it takes two archetypes and makes them better, like archetypes that typically don't draft in season long leagues because in the managed leagues, like so much is bent on just getting their volume correct, right? And it's the receiving only back, which has kind of died off a little bit in the NFL. Like Austin Eckler is one of the last remaining dudes. And we'll see,
Mhm.
if we get some guys like Travion involved in that this year. And then the slot receiver, like the pure slot receiver. So like the Jaden Reeds, the Khalil Shakurs, the Josh
Oh yeah.
Downs, those guys are better in best balls than they are in managed leagues because you have to get those guys with high drop back games in your managed leagues. I mean, they just don't play in one and two wide receiver sets. I had a thread on this like a couple weeks ago.
We got 15
Oh,
seconds. We got 50
oh,
seconds.
go ahead.
All right. We got Pittman, Higgins, Coleman, Keon Coleman. Aren't you? You're high on Keon Coleman, aren't you?
In
Rashad
a best
Bateman.
ball, I would lean towards like probably Pittman Kirk, and again, just throw volume at the wall.
All right.
Just
Pittman, um, Pittman and Kirk. You want to go? We could
yeah.
probably get Kirk on the next wrap, to be honest,
You
because
sure?
his ADP is
All right.
130. So we're at our next pick's like, yeah, 140. So we got a little bit of time.
All right. So then just
128.
do Coleman then, and we'll
Okay.
see if maybe we can luck box into like 8 touchdowns.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, we just need touchdowns now. Okay, so
He's
now we're
also
at,
another guy I'm interested in best ball and won't probably draft one time in August when like it's time to draft. I mean, he even last year as a rookie led the team in end zone targets. Missed 4 games, led the team in end zone targets. So you're getting that touchdown equity, but the weeks he doesn't score touchdowns, he could have 2 catches, right? Like, so I don't want to deal with that in a managed league. Have a 3-week stretch where he is terrible, and then you're like, all right, I'm going to take him out of my lineup, and then he catches 2 touchdowns. And you're like, what the hell? Those are the worst types of dudes, though. But that's the same thing we talk about Jaden Reed and Downs and Shakir. I mean, Jaden Reed has run 7 pass routes in 2 NFL seasons with 1 to 2 wide receivers on the field. Like, and you say, well, how many snaps is that? That's 2.5% of the Packers plays on those like that's a killer, man. That's killer. Like over the course of a season, you lose like 100 pass routes. Like those are brutal.
Oh, there's some games that he just like straight up doesn't play. Like he'll play like 40% of the snaps, 30% of the snaps because like they're not in 11 personnel. Like they're just in 12.
And do you think a team that's going to now hand the offense over to Daniel Jones is going to drop back 35 times a game? There's no way. There's no way.
No shot.
There's absolutely no chance.
It's crazy.
At least the Packers, you could say like, hey, they have the personnel. Like maybe they'll turn some things over to Jordan Love, but probably not. Same thing with Josh Allen. Right, the Bills are just gonna be too good for Khalil Shakir to run 600 pass routes.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That was my big thing with Dalton Kincaid last year in his ADP was like the Bills they're not gonna throw enough for this guy for an Evan Ingram archetype to be good in fantasy football. Like he's on the wrong roster.
Yeah, he was also, I think, injured as well, and then is now injured again. So I don't know. I kind of want to buy him as a bounce back in like the whatever, he goes in like the 12th, 13th round most of the time.
He's fine, I think, where he goes for ADP this year. I would say last year he was going like tight end 4, tight end 5. Like people had him as like a big breakout, and it's like, dude, in a Joe Brady offense, like this team's gonna be too balanced. Like he's just not gonna have the volume. Because Evan Ingram, the only time Evan Ingram was like a smash for fantasy was the year he led the NFL in routes run. like he just doesn't score enough touchdowns.
Oh yeah, no, totally. I'm curious your thoughts though. Cooper Kupp, like where is he going to play? Is JSN going to be outside? Is he going to play in the slot? Like what are they going to do with him? And does he have any juice left?
Probably not. I mean, he's not. He feels like a falling knife player, right?
That's
like
that's kind of where I'm at with him.
It feels like and they can get out of his contract easily if he tanks in a year. Same thing with Darnold's contract. I know people make a big deal of what those guys got, but they're easily able to get out both of those contracts. I would imagine that JSN gets to play in the outside more. Well, both guys are going to play outside because this team's not going to play a lot of 11 personnel anyways under Clint Kubiak. But I have more faith in JSN being able to have more juice in that type of role than Cooper Kupp. I think he needed that slot role in Sean McVay's system.
No, totally. I agree. And I'm just like, I'm worried about him. He just hasn't looked good for a little bit. And like you stick him outside in man coverage, like I think he's just dust. Like I think he's just over against any reasonable corner. But yeah, I mean, now we're looking at, we're what, 9 picks away. We have 1 quarterback, 3 running backs, 4 wide receivers because we double tapped it last time.
The only good thing that we have, the only out here is that we went elite onesie, so we can just take a bunch of yellow and try to make up some ground here for the Pollard pick.
Totally, yeah.
And to be fair, like Pollard is what he is. Like he's not like a super sexy pick, but like at least he's not a 0 for us.
We got Debro chiming in. Cup equals cooked. Yeah, I think we kind of think so.
He's just a tough click. Like I think of the aging guys that where you're saying like, am I trying to catch the falling knife? He feels the most guy like that. Like,
yeah, definitely. Any of these wide receivers? We got Kirk still on the queue, 5 picks away.
We had options here. Like I said, Kirk, Kyle Williams. I can definitely get on board with Kyle Williams here.
Big Kyle Williams fan. I think that's like maybe not the most mispriced, but one of the most mispriced players right now. That is going to be like a top, like borderline top 100 pick come like fall when training camp starts and like, oh, this guy's actually playing all the time and he's awesome. And like Drake May's taking the next step forward. Like Kyle Williams is going to be very involved in that.
And this must be like a site difference because on the other site, he definitely goes closer to like where we took Keon Coleman. Like you've seen Kyle Williams has pushed. Kyle Williams has already pushed that area.
Awesome. All right, so we can double tag Kirk and Williams if you want. I think
I love that actually.
I mean, we're all the way back. This is great.
I think Christian Kirk in best ball is like a really good best ball pick, and like he's another guy just like from format. Like when we get to August, he's probably not a guy I want to click very often. Because you have to get him correct, like the weekly. Like there's gonna be like stretches of the season where you're gonna talk yourself into the matchup or something for the week, right? And be wrong, and you're gonna bench him in the hot stretch. But he gets good quarterback play. We know he's not coming off the field, even though they drafted these 2 rookie wide receivers. He's safe for a year, so he's gonna run into just weeks that are productive in attached to CJ Stroud and Nico Collins.
Yeah, I think we had Debro on last week, and I think he brought up a good point. Like last year, we were drafting Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, and Nico Collins all inside the first 4 rounds or 5 rounds. And now, like, it's Nico in the top 10, and then we're getting everyone else outside the top 100, basically. And so, so one of these guys is probably going to break out if CJ Stroud plays reasonably well, or they have to throw a little bit more. Like, I think that any of those is possible and, like, leads to breakout outcomes for Kirk, for Higgins. I haven't really taken any much Noel, but he's like an 18th, 19th round pick. So, like, you know.
He probably needs an injury, but again, they've ran terrible in terms of injury luck the past few years. I mean, CJ Stroud actually, he only threw 66 passes last year with all 3 of those guys on the field. Like that was like the whole point of like why everyone was in on the offense, right? It was like, oh, Diggs, Tank Dell, Nico Collins, and they never all played together. I definitely think you can look at Christian Kirk and say he can definitely be a proxy of what Diggs was giving them last year. In terms of target share and his rolling offense. Kirk also has more juice than the typical slot receiver, right? Like he can win downfield as well. So there's the like added outs. He can add some splash plays too. He could be more Tank Dell than what Diggs was giving them.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. I like that. I like that comp there. All right, we got like a round here. I know you went in another show, talked about like kind of your must drafts, which I believe were George Pickens, Drake London, and Keon Coleman. Definitely check out Hayden and Josh's show. They do great work over there. Like early
Keon Coleman's a big underdog guy.
Yeah. I want to flip over though to the other question. Like any early phase, like any guys you're like, I'm just like straight up not clicking this guy, no matter what, basically.
Some ADPs that just I'm not really Omari and Hampton's ADP is just really hard for me. Like to take him as a mid, especially over guys that we know have stability that are boring clicks for gamers, like James Conner, right? Like people hate James Conner again because he's older and he's not super fun, but he's just been nothing but hyper productive with Drew Petzing. But Hampton, you have to ask for just a lot to go right, I think, at that ADP, which definitely you get that run out later in the season where he takes completely over, but he's just a really tough click because I just feel so much safer about the running backs around him that go after. So he's been the one guy that stood out as is a guy that I've just haven't really been on board with the drafting. I'm still not on board at Garrett Wilson's ADP. Like, yeah,
Okay.
it's just really hard to like say. And I know people will be like, oh, look what DJ Moore did with Justin Fields, but you're not getting any real discount on Garrett Wilson. Like, you're still taking him as like a fringe wide receiver one. And like, you're still asking for attachment to Justin Fields, that receiver has been one of the most inaccurate throwers to wide receivers, since he entered the NFL, to like nurture this spike. I just feel better again with the receivers going around him than I do him. So really tough there as well, to take him. But we brought up James Cook earlier. He's a guy I haven't been touching at that ADP, in that price range. Just screams regression. A lot more the passers, right? Like the pocket passers, that had career years, the Jared Goffs, the Baker Mayfields. It's really tough to pay the iron price for those types of guys.
Yeah, 7th round Baker Mayfield. I mean, it's a little rich. It feels kind of like we push up some of these pocket passers every year, and they end up not like underperforming expectations a little bit. I just prefer I just don't see, I guess, as big of a difference between him and like kind of other guys are getting in this range that, I think you can kind of push down a little bit here. All right, so we are.
I mean, you can arbitrage those guys for days. I mean, you can look at we have this year. I mean, if you told me, Connor, like you looked at my rankings and your rankings, and you're like, hey, Rich, your QB8 is my QB17, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Like it's like, I mean, like, it's just very flat. Like, you can make a case for a lot of those guys, JG McCarthy, Bo Nix, like the gap for, or everyone loves Drake May. I haven't talked to one person this offseason that dislikes Drake May. Like, honestly, everyone likes him. But any of those guys, you can just look at QB and you say like, hey, I can make a case for this guy. And I'm like, yeah, I totally get it. So it's just
100%.
very flat this year.
Yeah, no, totally agree. We are on the clock in one pick. So we have,
I think this is Goddard, right? Like we add Goddard to McBride and to Hurts.
Yes, definitely. Okay, so we'll go Goddard here, and then we have 2 tight ends, 6 wideouts, 3 running backs, 1 quarterback. We could go running back or wide receiver. I think makes a lot of sense. Let's see here, running backs. I mean, I don't love any of these guys. Jaden Blue's fine. Wide receiver. Your call if anyone stands out.
It's pretty gross. What's QB looking like? We only 8 seconds, so just pick Jaden Blue. Just pick Jaden Blue, and we'll take him. So we'll be fine.
Yeah, he's got a little bit. I think he has a little bit of upside. I mean, it's just like leaning into uncertainty in an offense that I don't know if they're going to run the ball a ton, but like if you can get him some pass catching snaps or just getting him out in the field, like I don't know, just get him out in the field. Miles Sanders and Javonte Williams are not the most encouraging competition. So
he is very squint to see poor man's, like what we had from Devin Achan's rookie year, like at this point of his rookie year, like undersized back, kind of an ambiguous backfield, has better tackle breaking numbers for a smaller back than you would think he has. And then he's a really good receiver, which is probably where I just lean into a format like this. Like they have to get him on the field as a receiver in this offense.
Totally. So I think we're kind of in a interesting position. So we don't have any other like receivers that we can really stack with outside of like if we wanted to go like Danny Dimes, Pittman or something like that, or
well, what's that QB here? What's left for us? Do we have any backdoor stacks available to us?
There are a couple that could be interesting. So there's obviously like Bryce Young, and I think like Leggett is around, and like that's kind of an interesting potential pairing. Cam Ward, there's like some of my favorites, Cam Ward, Aaron Rodgers, and Tyler Shugg have like some weird backdoor pairings. Like Shugg Juwan Johnson is kind of a fun one. Aaron Rodgers, and you could take like Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson, like in the 20th round, essentially. And then
I mean, you've got Geno and Jack Besh. Maybe potential because like that guy, Geno's not getting benched, right? Like it's just not happening.
No.
So you have some safety there too as well.
Looks like Besh might have already gone. Yeah, I think Besh went.
Okay.
Just went. So yeah, he went like a couple picks before us, but yeah, it's like that. I think
we made back up at wide receiver though.
Oh yeah, we're fine. I mean, I wouldn't say totally fine, but like I mean, when you start with Jamar Chase and you have Devonta Smith, like you just need a couple other guys to pop off each week and you'll be fine. So
no, our elite onesies too, we're hoping to carry. So
yeah.
We do have a Daniel Jones, Michael Pittman backdoor maybe available too as well.
Okay, so all right, gun to your head. How many games is Daniel Jones starting this season?
I would say he opens as the starter, and then if Richardson ends up out for the year, then by default he's going to start more than we expect. But I think both definitely start games.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
the
So
weirdest quarterback room I've ever seen, especially when you factor in Riley Leonard's there too. Like it's the absolute grossest. Like, and I saw Desmond Ritter was at their camp today because the NFL has a rule this year where players that necessarily like are coming for tryouts can practice with you. So like I saw he was practicing because they don't have Richardson as a camp arm right now because his shoulder, he's just resting the shoulder.
yeah.
It's hilarious. But I saw Desmond Ritter was there, and it's like this is just such an unserious operation.
Oh my God. Between which quarterback room would you rather have, the Cleveland Browns or Colts?
Oh, definitely the Browns because you
Definitely the
can at
Browns.
least say like maybe one of these guys is something. Like we know, like the Colts don't have their starting quarterback on the roster next year. At least you might say maybe the Browns do. Probably not, but maybe the Colts
Yeah.
starting quarterback next year. Their 2026 quarterback's not on the roster.
Do you think the Colts might be? I mean, they have to be in running for like worst team in the league, right? Like, I mean, they're like
The Saints
overall.
too. Like
Yeah.
yeah, we do like our unit ranks. Kind of like if you see like Mike Clay does like it's like a unit ranks. We do like a site one where it's a consensus. And mine like the Saints were by far the worst team in the NFL.
They every time I watch like an Underhill stream, I almost feel bad because there's like some like small like attempted optimism that I know he doesn't really believe in, like and like because he's like obviously he's a Saints beat writer. He's got to have some like level of
Yeah.
optimism. All right, so we're almost on the clock here. All right. Let's see here. QB.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
probably got to take one of these QBs. I'm fine with just taking Cam Ward paired with
okay. So let's do Cam Ward, and then we can. I mean, there's Alec Imanor. There's let's
oh
see
no, we're
here.
not taking any of these bums.
No, this is
You can talk me into a Conquo before you do another Titans receiver like Tyler Lockett or Yeoman or
yeah,
Dike.
it's like Lockett and Alec or whatever. So all right, we'll go with Cam
The
Ward.
ghost of Traylon Burks.
Dude, we can't draft Jalen Burks. That guy's the most dead of all time, I think, at this point. All right, who do you want to?
I
What do
would
you want
say
to go with?
I would say here like Josh Palmer would be worth another dart maybe, but
All right,
we did take Keon Coleman, but could be one of those in a best ball. Uh,
sure.
we have looking at the list here,
Why
not very
not?
great, not very great.
No, I've been taking some more Pat Bryant. I think his competition's really weak. He just like wasn't necessarily a good tester, wasn't like a mega producer, but went to like, Illinois consistently, was a consistent producer. And like, I don't know, I saw him play live a couple times, just was like very clearly the best player on the field, like almost all the time. And so, I mean, his depth chart competition is like Devon Vele and Marvin Mims and like Cortland Sutton. So like, I think he could easily see a good amount of time. He also might just rotate in as like a, fourth guy,
Which
which
is probably likely.
nothing. But yeah, right.
Those are the situations if you have a couple injuries, like those things change, right? Like might be their plan to enter the season to have once again, like last year, Cortland Sutton be the only guy that's on the field full time, and
Right.
then Mims is coming in getting his design stuff. You've got Vele, who's a slot only wide receiver, which we talked about, and then Pat Bryant, kind of mixing into. I know Sean Payton used the Michael Thomas comp, but like, like it got everyone kind of going, but if you have an
Yeah.
injury or something just gets thrown off kilter like that, those things can also change on the fly for a team. And then they have to play a guy more than they initially expected.
Yeah, no, that's exactly. And I mean, again, you were getting to the point here where like 16th, 17th, 18th round, a lot of these guys are darts as is. So we're kind of in a weird team building position here. So we have two quarterbacks. We have an elite quarterback, Hurts, and then we have Cam Ward, who I think could have some weekly upside occasionally. I think that's, not out of the question there. And then elite tight end as well with McBride. And then we have Goddard. Like, I almost think that we don't really need another tight end
No.
unless we're stacking them with someone else. I would say we probably need one more running back to make it 5 running backs, and then the rest
Yeah.
receivers. But that would be my take.
Yeah, I'm in lockstep with you. Probably don't need to go another tight end. Yeah, Cam Ward was like the last guy besides Aaron Rodgers that you're like, this dude's not getting benched. Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like you're gonna get a full season, outside of injury from this player. The rest of the guys all are in like a scattershot range of like, well, this dude might open the starter, but how many games will he start? Where that's like the range we were with guys like, the Giants quarterbacks, the Colts quarterbacks, the Browns quarterbacks.
Yeah, like the only surefire. I mean, I feel confident saying Shug's going to start the majority of the season. Like, I mean, he's like minus 400 to be the week 1 favorite at this point.
Yeah.
So he's probably starting the whole season. But like, I mean, like you said, they're probably going to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the league this year.
I could see him still, like, if he starts and it's that bad, just because, they might
The
just give
Rattler.
Rattler just a look at it, because he's a year 2 player too, who was thrown into a situation that was a disaster in year 1. So, remember, by the time Rattler was starting games, everyone died in that offense. I say this as someone who invested into the Saints and was counting my money through weeks 1 and 2 when they scored 100 points, and then, didn't score 100 points the rest of the season. But by the time Rattler and Hayner got to start, the offensive line was bludgeoned. Olave and Shaheed were already hurt. Like, it's really tough to gauge like how bad those guys actually were. If the offense is that bad again, though, and Shuck is just really in over his head, because Shuck can't move. That's the problem, is like, this dude can't move. Almost a third of his throws were like throwaways at Louisville. Like, this dude, when he was breathed on, was a disaster. He had some of the worst Power 5 production I've seen from a quarterback, and this is from a 26-year-old. Like, there's a situation where it's so bad that they just were like, hey, we're just gonna see what Rattler has again. I could definitely still see Rattler starting games at some point.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, that's the stat that you said about him, almost a third of his throws being throwaways is unbelievable. That is hilarious.
Yeah, a lot of people talked about his pressure to sack rate being good. It's just because, like, he threw the ball away at like one of the craziest rates like you've ever seen in a college quarterback.
What do we want to go with here? I mean, we probably we need wide receiver, running back. We could double tap, or I guess we have,
What running back darts do we have available here to throw? Samson, another spot that could be
Smith,
upside.
Like Keaton Mitchell, maybe Miles Sanders. We already have Jaden Blue, so probably not.
Yeah, we already made a bet in the backfield.
All right, so I would say let's go Samson here. I kind of like him. All right, Samson, and then do we want a wide receiver here? So then we're at 5 running back, 7 wide receivers. I mean, at this point, I would be fine with just a stack, just to have a Titans player. I've divorced myself from player takes at this point on who these.
That's fine. I would say Slayton would be the guy I would throw a dart at. It gives us a choice if we want to make a third QB, if we want to take dart, or we can just go in a different direction. But I mean, what you're going to get out of Slayton in a best ball too.
Yeah, you'll get a couple usable weeks, which is
and his role in the offense completely vibes with the strengths of the 2 quarterbacks they brought in, Russell Wilson and Dart, where they're not like, Wandell is not really that type. Like, they're not throwing to like those short intermediate routes. Like, that's never Russell Wilson was on a Hall of Fame trajectory until 2 high safeties came around, and then there was like, oh, like, now he's on his 3rd team in 3 years. Dart wants to push the football too, so like, I do think that there'll be an opportunity for Slayton to maybe pay off for a couple weeks in our lineup.
That's a good point, because I think that a lot of people, cite like Wandell's stats last year, because he was seeing like a wild target share for a couple of games. But like you said, like, I don't know if that really matches the strengths of what the Giants have in the quarterback room. And so, yeah, it probably lends more towards more deep shots for Neighbors. Obviously plenty more for Slayton. So yeah, that definitely makes sense there. I'm trying to think, man. So yeah, camp news, two questions here. Terry McLaurin, no show. Does it matter or not?
No, I think that they'll work this out. I mean, the Commanders have positioned themselves on Jaden Daniels' contract and everything they've done this offseason to go all in on of immediately competing, right? So I believe that that will correct itself at some point. Some weather side acquiesce for each other. I will say McLaurin, though, pretty big regression candidate himself. He did not have like an elite target share. It wasn't like this guy had like a 28% target share and was getting by. It was like in the 22 to like 24% range, and scored a bunch of touchdowns over expectation. He actually had the highest end zone conversion rate since 2016 for a player with double-digit end zone targets since Devontae Adams. So luckily they bring in Deebo Samuel, who doesn't command a lot of end zone targets over his career, but I would still say McLaurin is a guy that I expect some touchdown regression from this year. Definitely.
Yeah, I mean, he's going early 3rd round, it looks like. Yeah, I mean, in this range, like, I don't know if I really love him. I think we took Bucky.
I don't love it. He's a guy that I haven't really clicked at his ADP. I prefer Devontae Adams, I think, in that spot.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, we took Bucky. I would have taken Jacobs, Adams. I personally probably still would have taken Wilson over him, but I would probably take one of the running backs or Adams prior. Yeah, no, I mean, but then I think that also brings up like about Deebo, like he's going in the late 6th. obviously not who he used to be, but I think that he can still be, you know, pretty viable in this offense. I go back and forth on him. Again, I'm just more often clicking Judy or like, you know, Addison, Waddle, Jennings, if I'm in that range generally. But I don't know. Are you in on Samuel this year?
He's another guy I haven't really clicked at cost. I don't necessarily have a problem with him because I think his fit in the offense is actually like there are very few teams I think the Deebo Samuel got traded from the 49ers to that you would have said like it's a lateral move or could
Right.
potentially be an upgrade. And this is actually one of them because Cliff wants to throw the ball near the line of scrimmage, right? And you look at creating yak, the Commanders just didn't have guys that could create yards after the catch last year. I mean, that's not really been McLaurin's game over his career. Jaden Daniels threw 3 total touchdown passes last year where a wide receiver took the ball into the end zone. All his other touchdowns were thrown on passes into the actual end zone already. So that was only above Trevor Lawrence and Cooper Rush, who didn't even start the whole year. So like it does fit for what Cliff wants to do and what they wanted to add to this team. I just think Deebo is probably a better real life addition to the Commanders than he is necessarily like a fantasy asset.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I kind of agree with that. Also, like, I mean, Deebo just like can't separate versus man like at all right now. So like, it's if he's getting scheme stuff, he's gonna have some awesome games. If he's not, there's gonna be some games where he's left on an island and he has like 6 targets for like 3 catches and 20 yards. Like there's gonna be some rough games. All right, we are up in 2 picks. We are at 2-5-8-2 in terms of build. We could probably go running back. So we have 3 picks left total, running back and more wide receivers. We could do, I don't know if we need anything else at the onesie positions, to be honest, because the QB pretty gross is Russ. Just Russ.
No,
Basically.
we're not doing. We were fine. I think we just roll Hurts and
Yeah.
Cam Ward, naked
Let's
Ward.
see here. Scrolling on wide receiver. I don't mind Horn at all, but he got injured again. Chisholm's been getting a lot of hype. You have any interest in that?
I would say the kid from Washington, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt would be fun to throw a dart.
Okay.
Running back.
I queued up Richard, so we got Richard. Do we want JCM still? I do like JCM. I mean,
yeah, I love throwing darts. And Brian Robinson was so bad the back half of last season, and he's not under contract next year. Like, I could definitely just see them because they're not going to give Austin Eckler like a lead running back role at age 31. Like,
no,
they were forced to do it a couple games last year. I could definitely just see like them getting into camp and stuff, and just like Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt just looking so much better. Same thing with Brashard Smith in Kansas City. Just like he looks probably is going to look so much better than like Kareem Hunt does. you know, those guys that they might just get their way on the field. But Brian Robinson was really bad the back half of last season.
He's so bad. Does JCM catch the ball at all? Honestly, I'd not like. I mean, because
he's capable. I mean, it's a situation where Eckler is going to have that role regardless.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've been like in builds where I need a guy that I know can probably score me like 6 to 10 points most weeks. I've been actually targeting Eckler like a decent amount, like the 15th.
Yes, absolutely. You know, I told you
like
best ball makes sense to take Eckler.
Yeah,
because you're going to just luck box into 3 or 4 games where he's in your lineup.
Oh yeah, totally. Because he catches the ball and like, you know,
but in a managed league, you're going to hate of having him on your roster because you'll never know when to play him unless it's a necessity.
Never have him. Yeah, and you're not gonna know when to play him. Like, and if you do, you're almost always gonna guess wrong. That's how it always goes. But yeah, we had some good rookie. We had, I guess, 4 rookie running backs here down the stretch: Blue, Sampson, Brashard Smith, and JCM,
and all in largely ambiguous situations. I think you can say the Chiefs and Commanders maybe aren't as ambiguous on the surface, but they could end up being ambiguous ones.
You think Sampson's going to take over kind of like the Ford role that we saw in the past? Or you think...
Well, that's the thing, is Ford still being there and taking the pay cut to stay.
Yeah.
I imagine that he's going to occupy that. But, you know, you only need an injury or something to happen for a guy like Sampson. And he wasn't a guy I particularly loved in college, but maybe there's some explosiveness there. He was liked by the NFL, so there was contingency that definitely liked him. But I like throwing these rookie running back picks at the wall because those are the upside guys.
Oh, totally. Yeah, it's just kind of fun too. Like, I mean, you could tell me these probably at least 2 or 3 of these guys are going to be like a healthy scratch at some point.
And they go well with our boring guys because we accidentally got 2 boring guys on the auto.
Yep. Yeah. Montgomery and Pollard, very boring, but are going to score some points. And then we have 4 exciting running backs. Wide receiver, I think we did a good job here in this middle range here, kind of making up for the running back picks. snagging some guys here. And then obviously the Goddard McBride pairing and Hurts Cam Ward pairing are both pretty solid here. So we got one pick left. I mean, we can go. I would say wide receiver probably makes the most sense in this spot.
I would say Jermaine Burton would be the dude that just throw a dart on. He's also some insulation potentially for Chase.
Wow. I mean, we're looking at Jermaine Burton. I love it. I mean, this is like way down. Let's see where he's at the.
I mean, elite offensive attachment. If something, year 2 wide receiver that was a 3rd round pick is an absolute knucklehead. This is what you have that, but these are the dudes with your 18th round pick. It's not hard to say hey, if he puts it together, everything's been positive so far to this point. And again, a player like this only needs to do one dumb thing and find himself back in the doghouse. But these are the types of guys that throw 18th round picks on.
Yeah, downside doesn't matter here. I mean, we're only thinking about upside. He's obviously a freak talent wise, and a good player.
I mean, he's been one of my most popular last round picks so far. Just for those reasons.
There's also, I think, a conversation around picking players that are not normally even selected in the draft. So I don't think he's picked in most drafts at all. And so you get him to pop down the stretch, his ownership is even lower than a normal 18th round, 17th round player that pops. So sweet. All right. I think that this worked pretty well. I think that we have a good team that we went through some controversy, a little bit of problems there, by the user problems on my end. We ended up with Chase, McBride, Bucky, Devonta Smith, Jalen Hurts stack, Dave Montgomery, Tony Pollard, Michael Pittman, Keon Coleman, Christian Kirk, Kyle Williams, paired Goddard with Hurts and Devonta. We have Jaden Blue, Cam Ward, Josh Palmer, Sampson, Slayton, Smith, JCM, and Jermaine Burton. I mean, what are we thinking here? A B plus? What do you think overall here? How are you feeling after this?
Yeah, I think it has to be just looking at the strength of this roster. And we've got elite onesies. We've got obviously we had the 101 pick, so we had Jamar Chase. So we have an elite anchor wide receiver as well in a full PPR. We've got a good running back room. We've got even the boring guys. I think are actually going to mesh well here with the upside rookies. I feel I think a solid B. With potential if we hit on some of these late round rookies, to potentially elevate this thing.
Love it.
But this team definitely, I believe, will be in the top half of this league. I would wager.
Yeah, that's the question. Definitely top half. It's a question of do we have enough upside to we got to strike gold with one of these random rookies, or some of our receivers probably got to run hot. We need a 12 touchdown Keon Coleman season, maybe out of nowhere but I mean, hey, it's possible.
Yeah, I think a lot of people love these drafts, and not just us doing them to necessarily grade the team. They want to hear the conversation of walking through either the picks or how you feel about players and situations. So even players we didn't pick, I'm sure people listen to, and we're able to preen something away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you had some awesome stats that maybe do, I don't know, 3 to 4 double takes throughout the episode here. That were insane. So, dude, I appreciate you coming on. This is awesome. Tell the people where they can find you if they don't already know already, and any upcoming work that you got coming out.
Yeah, I'm almost done submitting my chapters for the preview book that Warren always puts out. So that's almost in the review. And once that's done, I start just hammering on the living, breathing draft kit, which I've already, posted, rankings and player blurbs and stuff already on to get people that are, sickos like us drafting in these leagues. So you can read my initial thoughts on players. And then right after 4th of July, I come out with my massive tiers, which is my huge article every year where I go super in depth on every player. So look for that after 4th of July. Definitely go check out the site. For a promo for anyone that's listening to this, if you guys want to use promo code DRAFT, you guys can get in it for some goodies too, just for any audience members here, and jump in from the draft kit there. You'll be surprised. I promise if you go type it in, you'll be like, oh, really? So yeah, definitely go check that out over at the site. But other than that, I love just coming on here riffing. These are the easy shows. You come in and just draft a team and talk about stuff. Cool. I love doing that.
Yeah, no prep. I didn't send you a show sheet before. I thought about typing one up. I'm like, no, Rich knows ball. He doesn't need a show sheet. You're totally fine. Can just, shoot the shit for a little bit and hang out. Also, I say it, I think every time we do a show or every time I see you, your weekly article that you do in season is incredible. It's one of my must reads each week, and I make a bunch of my bets off that. So it's literally, it's money. It's so insightful into certain things that can help you gain an edge in fantasy, betting, DFS, etc. So,
oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah, I appreciate it. That's definitely something I've taken a lot of pride in over the years. Been doing that for over a decade.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So just audience as a reminder, we'll be back next week with another draft, and make sure not to miss out DraftKings draft one and get one. So if you like the draft we did today, you can draft one yourself and enter a lineup in the $15 million best ball contest for $20, and you'll get another one to play for free for a share of $15 million. So thank you everyone for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another awesome guest, and talk soon.